Southern Ocean exploration is really all about exploration, education and preservation. We put in the work exploring to find the shipwrecks, we put the teams together and we put in the background work. Then once we've located the sites, then it's about the education. So we go out to different community groups and give talks on the wrecks that we've found. We provide the information to Heritage Victoria or to any other government department that is interested in the work that we're doing. And it's also about preserving the sites. Along with the education, what we're trying to do is to get the general public to understand that these sites need to be preserved and looked after.
Don't worry about it. We'll do the wreck.
The first dives that we did as an organisation was really the Victorian Ships Graveyard and also the Cumberland, the ship that we'd found in New South Wales. The Cumberland was built in 1915 and sunk in 1917 when it hit a mine laid off the east coast of Victoria by the German raider, the Wolf. We got some information through Heritage New South Wales about the location of the ship and went out and found it. However, Greg and I soon realised that we needed to put some sort of organisation together to deal with the government, because after finding the ship, everything that was put in the papers was all about how the Sydney project located the ship, and there was no mention of the two guys from Victoria. So we realised that we had to be an organisation, and this would give us more credibility with the media and with the government departments that we needed to work with if we were to go on and find more ships. The Cumberland was in 105 metres of water, and we didn't really have a lot of experience or great training. There was very limited technical diver training around in those days. It was really just a matter of diving it the way that the instructor that taught us had shown us. We didn't really have the experience or our own experience to go by, and it wasn't until the later years that we realised that there were better and safer ways of diving these sites. Finding more shipwrecks in Victoria was a passion that Greg Hodge and I had, and we realised that by putting Southern Ocean exploration together along with a team of guys that had the suitable qualifications, that we had every chance of going out and finding more sites. On the 2nd of August 1876, the SS Queensland was struck by the Barrabil and sank in about 35 minutes, with only the loss of one life. It takes a lot of luck to find a wreck in the middle of the ocean, and luck was on our side this day. We found the Queensland in only about 20 minutes on the water. That was June 2005. She was 325 foot and 2,263 tonnes. This is still one of my favourite dives. It was after the Queensland that the team started to grow. I think it was then that the local divers realised that this was the start of a journey, and quite a few of the guys wanted to get on board to enjoy the ride. She sank south of Wilson's Promontory on the 18th of February 1929. 415 foot long, she was 6,993 tonnes. We found her on the 23rd of April 2005. Finding sites like the Canona has made us all very aware that how important maritime archaeology is to us as a community. I think all wreck divers started out diving for the same purpose, and that was to find a ship of gold, the sunken treasure. Then when we realised there was no sunken treasure, we thought, well, at least we can get some plates or maybe a porthole to show our friends and family. Once we started to think about this and discuss it more, it became more and more important to us that we didn't remove any of the artefacts off the sites and that we left the sites in pristine condition for the maritime archaeologists. It's only been recently that some of the more well-known wreck bashers, as the term that we use to describe them, have come around to our way of thinking. It has been a long and hard battle convincing these guys, but as community attitudes change, then so has the attitudes of the divers.
SS Alert sank during a wild storm more than 100 years ago.
Shipwreck hunters. The ocean archaeologists found the wreck of the SS Alert in a secret location off Cape Shipwreck.
The Alert. We found her on the 27th of June 2007. She's 169 foot long and 243 tonnes. This was the first ship that we'd found that had a substantial loss of life. 15 of the crew perished, with only Robert Ponting, the ship's cook, surviving. The Alert was never built for the tough conditions of Bass Strait, but I don't think that's what sank her. The propeller blades had been thrown totally off. Quite a few of the descendants contacted us wanting to know about the site. It made the news and it was the start of the major publicity surrounding our finds. This also is one of my favourite dives, an intact ship just sitting on the bottom.
Southern Ocean Exploration is the most successful shipwreck discovery team in Australia. Over the last decade, their discoveries have reignited national interest in our maritime history.
The search that we're going to be doing today is for the SS Glenelg.
Team leader Mark Ryan is preparing his crew for a new mission, to find the SS Glenelg, a 210-tonne iron steamer that disappeared in Bass Strait in March 1900.
There were 7 children on board. It's interesting to note that 45 children lost their parents when this ship went down. The finding of the Glenelg was a real team effort. It was too far from home just to spend a day out on the water. We needed to stay down the coast overnight, and this took quite a bit of commitment. Not just to be away from the family overnight, but to do it week after week. The Glenelg was another one with a great loss of life, 38. It was also another ship that generated quite a bit of interest from the descendants. Gordon Fife was the chief engineer's grandson, and he wanted to dive it. Although he'd never learnt to dive, we needed to train him up. This has been one of the most rewarding of all the wreck finds. Yeah, well, clearly this is the sweetest find of all, the amount of work that we've put into this, the whole team. We started on this over 7 years ago when Greg Hodge and I first read Des Williams' book and thought, well, this is a ship that needs to be found.
Those poor buggers. They didn't have a chance, did they? I mean, you look at when you're right out here, what chance?
When we decided to look for the Karamba about 10 years ago, Des offered us all of his research and spent a lot of time with us. He didn't care who found the ship, he just wanted the mystery solved.
So the day that we discovered the wreck was a particularly a moody sort of day. It was a grey morning. The ocean was as flat as a tack, which is extremely unusual for that area. And the journey down was quite exciting. We were in a much slower moving boat than a forward team, diving team, which had gone ahead of us. So we had some information, a telephone call from the divers that had gone down ahead of us, that they had discovered a wreck.
They're right on it, putting the shot in now, and there's a wreck seal. All right, good on you, mate. Make sure that...
They didn't know what wreck. So there was a fair amount of excitement as we approached that wreck site, and I was particularly keen to see what it was and what the divers were going to come up with.
Hey, congratulations. What is it though?
We don't know. Chris Edwards and George, they went out in Alan Easter's boat because they were a bit smaller and a bit quicker. They put a shot on the side and George has set up the bag to confirm that the site is definitely a wreck. We don't know at this stage what the wreck is. It may not be the Karamba, but there's a good chance that it could be.
We're hoping it's the Karamba because we don't want to keep coming out searching for the next 20 years.
How about that? Hey Alan, just telling the boys I'm like a half-open pocket knife.
Excellent.
The stern's lying on its side, so one prop's half buried in the sand, and the other prop's sitting up proud on in the ocean, so you can get a really good shot of it. It's definitely the Karamba. It's got the
counter stern.
Yeah, and the rudder and all that's still intact.
The rudder's still intact.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it looks like it's broken in half, and we couldn't really find the bow to make up what that was. But the stern's quite intact. I saw the boiler for the donkey engine.
You did?
Yeah, the boiler for the donkey engine, not the other boiler, the main engine boiler. It's like the holes wrapped around it.
Oh, right.
So you got to sort of...
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of the holes still there.
It was a very special day for me because I was with a lot of good friends and being a diver myself, I knew the technology that they had to get this end result. All high technology and a lot of money had been spent, and of course as a diver I knew what they would be facing diving to 63 metres, which is a pretty deep dive. These guys are using mixed gases and they're highly trained and they're younger than me, and unfortunately I had to sit on the boat and wait for their answer, but that was a particularly wonderful day.
We usually have about 5 or 6 projects on the go at any one time. A couple of the lesser projects are probably the Karinga and the Kamandi. But I guess the main projects that we're looking at the moment are the City of Hobart, which is one that we'd really like to find, and the Federal. The Federal's a project that we've been working on for about 5 years now. The Paringa, of course, because that's just a fascinating story. In December 1935, the Paringa was towing the Vincas from Melbourne to Sydney, ultimately on its way to Japan. They were going to scrap both of the boats. And the storm came through and they both disappeared. The Vincas eventually washed up on the beach, but the Paringa was never seen, and the crew totally disappeared. The Paringa's a bit of a tough one to even start looking for. We believe it's down off the 90-mile beach somewhere, but that's about as much information as we've got at the moment. What we need to do now is to try and get some more information, go back through the records, the Marine Board inquiry, and just see if we can find one small snippet of information that might just give us an indication of to where it could have sunk. And then we need to get out on the water and spend as much time on the water with the side-scan sonar, just searching and searching. If we don't find these ships and tell their stories, who will? The ships will just rust away under the sea.